Hello everyone! In the spirit of Halloween, we are diving into the dark and terrifying world of IT mistakes. Those mistakes that can haunt you long before the damage is done. I'm also going to share with you a spine-chilling tale of a mistake that haunted my workplace for weeks. So, let's explore the graveyard of tech blunders that left IT professionals wide awake in the dead of the night, and tips on how to avoid them. So, if you're interested in today's video, please keep on watching, and without further ado, let's get started. The first mistake that lurks in the shadows is leaving a monitoring system or software opened in a critical server.
Our team had been working diligently on maintaining our SCCM environment. Everything was going smoothly until one fateful day. We had a monitoring system, which is Wireshark, open on our distribution point server. The purpose was to troubleshoot some network issues, but somehow it was left running for 2 weeks. As days passed, we didn't realize that the seemingly harmless tool was collecting data, filling our hard drive faster than a ghost can fly. Eventually, the server storage capacity was completely consumed. One day, we were unable to image new computers or deploy software packages. Panic set in as we realized our distribution point had failed, all because of an open monitoring software. Our team quickly gathered to investigate this ghostly occurrence. After hours of searching, we finally found the culprit, Wireshark. It had been silently accumulating data, and the drive was filled to the brim, leaving us in a nightmarish situation.
So what's the lesson from this haunting tale? Always monitor your monitoring tools. Leaving any software or systems open in a critical server can lead to disastrous outcomes.
Monitoring your monitoring tools on servers is critical to ensure they are functioning properly and not causing unintended issues, such as filling up disk space or consuming too many resources. Here are some tips and step-by-step instructions for setting up monitoring for your monitoring tools. First is to set up alerts for abnormal activity. Ensure that monitoring software has alerts configured for its own performance, such as high CPU or memory usage. Also, enable disk usage alerts to prevent logs or captures from filling up the drive. Next is log rotation and cleanup. Implement log rotation or regular cleanup of log files generated by monitoring tools. This prevents them from consuming all the available disk space. Then, you can also monitor your resource usage. Keep an eye on CPU, memory, and disk space usage, specifically for the monitoring tool itself, to avoid it slowing down the system. And you can also automate health checks. Use scripts to automate health checks on the monitoring software to detect potential issues before they escalate.
Another haunting mistake is forgetting to apply security patches. You leave your software vulnerable, and attackers strike when you least expect it. An unpatched system is like leaving the front door open in a haunted house, just waiting for a specter to enter.
Here are some tips to prevent the ghost of unpatched systems. First is regular patch management schedule. Create a monthly or bi-weekly schedule to review and apply security patches for all systems, applications, and devices. Next is automated patch management tools. Use tools like SCCM or Intune for Windows, or Jamf for Apple, or third-party solutions for managing and automating patch deployment. Next is testing before deployment. Test patches in a staging environment to ensure they do not disrupt services before applying them to production systems. And keep an inventory. Maintain an up-to-date inventory of all hardware and software to know what needs to be patched.
Imagine this: leaving your system open with default credentials. It's like inviting the undead to your network.
Here are some tips to prevent you from leaving your system wide open with default credentials. First is to change default credentials immediately. When setting up new devices or software, change default usernames and passwords to strong, unique credentials as part of the initial setup. Next is implement a password policy. Enforce a password policy that requires strong passwords with minimum length, complexity, and regular changes. Next is use multi-factor authentication. Enable MFA on all accounts where possible, adding an additional layer of security beyond just usernames and passwords. Next is to regularly review accounts. Periodically audit user accounts to ensure that only authorized personnel have access and that default accounts are disabled or deleted. You can also create role-based accounts. Assign specific accounts to users based on their roles and permissions, rather than everyone sharing an admin account. Then, you can audit and monitor login attempts. Enable logging to keep track of failed and successful login attempts. This helps in identifying unauthorized access attempts. Lastly, use a password manager. For systems with numerous credentials, use a password manager to securely store and manage passwords.
Next up, the phantom of improper backups. Imagine working tirelessly only to have a server crash and your precious data vanish into the night. If you haven't backed up the data, or worse, if you haven't tested those backups, you're one click away from disaster.
Here are some tips to prevent your data from vanishing. First, establish a backup policy. Define a clear backup policy that includes the frequency of backups, types of data to be backed up, and retention periods. Next is to use the 3-2-1 backup rule. Keep 3 copies of your data, store 2 backups on different devices or media, and keep 1 copy offsite or in the cloud. Next is regular testing of backups. Regularly test backup restoration processes to ensure that backups are valid and can be restored successfully when needed. Next is to automate backup processes. Use automated backup solutions to ensure backups occur consistently without relying on manual intervention. You can also backup both files and system configurations. Ensure that you back up not just your files, but also system configurations, applications, and any other critical data necessary to restore the system in full. And lastly, separate backup from production environment. Ensure your backup solution is isolated from the production environment to prevent data loss due to malware.
Back up your data regularly and make sure those backups work. You don't want to hear an eerie silence once everything is gone. Using weak or outdated encryption is like locking your door with a skeleton key. Anyone can get in.
Here are some tips to prevent weak encryption on your systems. First is to use strong encryption standards. Implement strong encryption standards such as AES 256 for data at rest and TLS 1.2 or higher for data in transit. Next is to regularly review encryption protocols. Regularly review and update encryption protocols and algorithms to comply with the latest security standards and best practices. Next is to encrypt sensitive data. Ensure that all sensitive data, including personally identifiable information and financial data, is encrypted both at rest and in transit. And you can also educate staff on encryption importance. Conduct training sessions to educate employees on the importance of encryption and how to apply it effectively.
Always use strong encryption, or your data may be laid bare to see. In the chaos of the night, poor communication can spell doom to any IT operation. Failing to document or relay information properly can turn a simple outage into an unsolvable mystery.
Here are some tips to prevent the dread of miscommunication. First is to establish clear communication channels. Define clear communication channels for reporting issues and sharing updates among teams, such as ticketing system or communication platform like Slack or Microsoft Teams. Next is regular team meetings. Hold regular meetings to discuss ongoing projects, updates, and any potential issues that may arise. Next is to create documentation. Maintain a clear documentation process, policies, and incident reports to ensure that everyone has access to the same information. And lastly, encourage a culture of transparency. Foster an environment where team members feel comfortable sharing information, asking questions, and reporting issues without fear of blame.
Documentation is the key to survival in the tech world. Without it, your team may be stumbling into the dark when it matters most. Remember, my fellow tech professionals, these are only a few of the horrifying mistakes that can haunt your IT career. But don't fear. Stay vigilant and you'll avoid the pitfalls that could summon the dark forces of downtime and disaster. Just remember to not let your tech mistakes come back to haunt you. Thank you so much, and I hope that you enjoyed our Halloween special. Please let me know any IT mistakes that haunted your workplace or your career and what you learned from them in the comment sections below if you wanted to share. Again, thank you so much for watching, and I hope to see you guys in the next video.